Hey guys, how y'all doing? How's your day going? And if it's just starting, how's your night? Hope you had or are having an amazing and beautiful day. For those of you who don't know, here, my name is Praise, and you're currently tuned into my channel. Please don't forget to like, share the video, and leave a comment if you have any questions. So today's day 8 of our 100 days of Python. The previous video before this one, we built a hangman project. We're going to further on that project later on down the line once we start working with file operators, but today we're going to be working with functions. I don't know if I feel like we've already touched functions, but when we did, I just did like the basic introduction to functions. So today we are going to be focusing on receiving arguments with your functions. So I did mention that like when you're working with functions, you could either just have a clean function that doesn't take in any arguments, or you can receive arguments. So or parameters, depending on what you want to call it. So today we're going to be working with parameters. So if you remember how to define functions, very easy. You use the def keyword, which is def, and then the name of what you want to call the function you're working with, which in this case, let's just use greet. We're building a very, very simple function. And then you have your parentheses. So this like this alone is a very okay way to call your function. If you don't have an argument, then you can now define what the function is going to be used for, which is, let's say, want it to print um good morning. Just even an example. Or hello world. Let's just use good morning because I've already started typing it. And if I save it, then remember I said that before a function is active, you need to call the function. So how do we call the function? You write the name of the function, and whether there are parentheses or and parameters or not, you put in your parentheses, you save it, and then you run it, and it's going to call the function for us. So if we run the program now, we're going to see it's going to print good morning because that is what the function is supposed to do. Now, functions, I'm just working with very simple functions, but like at the end of this video, we're going to actually start working with a little bit of cybersecurity type project. We're going to work with encryption. And maybe in the next video, we'll now work on decrypting it's still basically the same code though, but we're just going to work on decryption. You can even try decrypting it yourself and leave your source code below. So now if we want to receive arguments, for example, what kind of arguments will we need for a function that takes greet? We want to have the person's name. All you need to do is just call, right? So usually when you are defining a new variable, you write the name of the variable, you equate it to the value you want to assign to this variable. In this case, though, you just write the name of the variable it is you want to call, and we can have in multiple variables, so we can have name and so much more. But we're just going to collect the name here. Now, what we do, so let's make this a formatted string because I'm obsessed with that. Our curly braces. By now, you should know how to work with formatted strings. If you don't, I don't even know what you're doing with your life, honestly. So, within our formatted string, now we want to get the person's name. So, we're just going to write the name variable inside it because that is variable we asked for. Now, let's run it without doing anything. We're supposed to get an error. So, let's see the error that we get, a type error. That is because we are calling a variable that doesn't exist, something like that. So what we do within our parentheses, when you are calling the function, you assign the name you want. So let's use my name, praise, and is a string, is not a variable. So just don't forget to enclose it in your inverted comma. And now if we run it, it should say praise good morning there. So that is like I heard functions are very, very easy. It's like one of the easiest things in Python. And Python is based like if you want to have like a very effective program, you would be working with a lot of functions. So now that is just working with normal functions. Next thing we have this stuff called arbitrary arguments or args. What are those? Is when you want to pass in a list, you want to collect like not just list, you want to collect a collection of data. It could be a list, it could be tuples, it could be sets. So how do you call this? So what if we wanted to collect multiple names? All we need to do is just we're going to just put an asterisk in front of um the function that we're calling, and now we're going to work with it the way we would work with any normal list. So we want to look through it. So we're going to say for, let's just use I, for I in name, because that is the name of what we're calling it. So we'll just indent this. And now instead of name here, we're going to print I. So it's going to print good morning for every single name we impute here. So let's just have a list here. Let's just enclose this also. And let's put in other names. We'll use praise. Let's just use all my names because why not? Judah, Chibudum. All right, so let's save it. So now it should print greeting every single one of these names individually. What happened? No, I didn't do something right. Let me see. Alright, so I found where the issue was this bracket stuff I put here. So let's just quickly remove that. Alright, let's try running our program again. Alright there. So those are called arbitrary no, not keywords. They're called arbitrary arguments. Then there's other stuff, I don't know if I've worked with dictionaries yet. When you have like a, a when you have like a word and you now have other categories to things that it's answering to. For example, human, you have the name, age, date of birth, and whatever other information. So we can do something similar to that in our functions using arbitrary keyword arguments called quads. Now, how that is different from here is that it takes double as it's not a single one. And let's just so let's say we're working with a name. So we're just going to do this. Let's just print we're just going to print your first name. Why do I keep forgetting to include this stuff? What is happening? Why are people running mad? So you have your first name is, we'll have our curly braces, and we'll just use F name. Let me ash ash. We'll have F, which is going to be our formatted strings. And next we'll have print. We'll have your last name is, I'll just use curly braces, and we'll use L name. Sure, I'm doing something wrong. I'm coming. Let's just quickly try something first. If not, we're going to just do it the normal way. I'm trying to like. All right, so we're going to say F name is going to be equal to praise, and L name is going to be equals to opacity. Let's say it's and we're just going to do the normal. We usually will just call the dictionary, not access from it. Oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. Let's hope this works. Even though there's a different way to talk about this. And let's do this. We're going to say for key and value in name dot item. So this is going to allow us to access every single thing that is currently present in it. Then let's just do this for now. So we're going to print um we want to get the key first. So we also want to print um so the key is going to be either this first name or the last name, depending on what is accessing. And we're going to print the last the value. So let's just see. Let's save this. Let's see if it's going to work now. All right. So basically, what this one allows you to do, so I can pass more things if I want to add age or whatnot. So it just allows me to kind of like receive dictionaries as input into the function. So right now you may not really see much of the use to it, but it depends on what you want to work on. You get. So another thing in Python, there's this stuff called positional and keyword arguments. So let's just quickly give you let me give you a quick example of what these stuff are. So the positional arguments are arguments passed to a function in like the same order as their parameters. That's in like if we have let's say, okay, this is when you start receiving multiple inputs from your function. Let's say for example, let me just bring this back. Let's say I'm collecting your name, and I'm collecting I didn't spell that right. Let's I'm collecting your name, and I'm collecting the greeting you want, right? So let's just print or print. I'm going to print your name also. So what is just going to happen, like if I'm assigning it, no matter how I'm accessing the variable within the function, the very first one, this is the method everybody like, this is what everyone is usually familiar with. So the first thing I put is going to be my name. So even if like you change how it's going to be accessed within the function, as long as the first thing entered is your name and the second thing entered is going to be like the greeting you're passing in. So you see here we access greeting before we access name, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's going to access the name first. But when you're working with keyword arguments, it allows you to pass the argument in any like order you want, but you have to like specify. It's kind of like assigning it to a variable. So for example, if I wanted to access, if I wanted to write hi first for some reason, what I need to do is call greeting and say greeting is equals to hi, even though name was the first thing I declared in my function. And then I'll be like, name is equals to praise. So you can just find out which method works best for you. And yeah, so we're going to be I remember I said we're going to work on an encryption type um project using function. So there's this type of encryption. It's called, I think, is it Caesar Cipher, something like that. So the whole idea, or the way it works, is when it's usually for password, but it's not the most. It's one of the least secure, but it's easy to work with. Like it's a good way to start introducing beginners. So when you are given a string of words, let me just write a word here. Let's say praise. I'm obsessed with my name. So if I want to encrypt this, right? The way I'll go about this, so depending on how many times I want to skip, I'm skipping one letter. What is after praise? MNOPQ, okay, P, QRSBHIJQRSCEF. So this here praise is the word, is the string that I pass into the system, but the encrypted value, since I'm skipping by one, is this. So I don't know if you understand. So if I wanted to skip by two, it's going to skip like two letters after what I currently have here. So the program we're going to build should be able to take your input and then return the encrypted value. So we're going to work with strings. You mustn't work with strings. You can try to just like call out every individual character by yourself. Like I don't know why you're going to do that. So we're going to import string. String is Hmm. String is it comes built into your with your Python, so you don't need to like install it or anything. So import string. Now we're going to define a variable, a function, and let's just call it encrypt. How do you spell encrypt? All right. So there are two arguments we want to take here. The first is going to be the main text that we want to um want to change, which in this case was praise in the last example we gave. And the second one is like how many letters we want to shift through. All right. So this one, I'm not going to receive inputs. I'm just going to use everything built in. When you're working on it on your own, though, you can receive inputs. Very simple. You just, instead of assigning value for the variable, you just put input and assign the input to the variable you want to call. You should already know that by now, though. So next, we want to now get all the shifted alphabet. I don't think I spelled that well. I don't know how to spell. Okay, just leave it. Then we're now going to access this string. And we're going to, in the strings, you have like, you can access, okay, you haven't seen them here. You can access all ASCII letters, you can access all ASCII lowercase letters, you can access all ASCII, uppercase letters. So I'm just going to work with the lowercase here, but because like if you want to encrypt differently, like when you're working with capital letters, you can set, or should we just take out the whole letters? Let's just take out the whole letters. Let's take all the whole letters. Let's just all the letters. So I'm going to say string dot ASCII underscore letters. Then so in the bracket here is going to be, how to what do we call it again? Slicing, when you're slicing list of strings, when you like want to start from a particular point and stop at a specific point. So remember I said once you want to get from like gosh, I have a video on this, so you can just go and check it out. So we are going to be working with the shift variable because that's going to give you the counts, and we'll just have your column because that's how you slice. And then we're going to add this with everything that comes after. So it's still going to be the same string dot ASCII underscore letters. Okay, what else here? Okay, so now let's outline our new this thing. So in this file now, it's not a string. So we're going to kind of like change it to a string so that we'll be able to actually return it as a value and actually make, I don't even know what to call it, like access it or something like that. Because for some reason it doesn't work when you do it. I was trying it, it wasn't working. I was trying to like, it was like a way I could just like break it down. But the source code I'm using right now is a very, very straightforward and simple one. Okay. So now what we're just doing now is like what kind of how do I call it? We're making like a change. It's just at this point that we're like, okay, so once you get uh like we have access like all the letters, like we're skipping like, okay, if we want to skip by five, so we're saying the new alphabet, the beginning, like the first letter is going to start from this point, depending on where your shift is, it's going to start from this point. So now we're just mapping both of them to be together. So A is equals to, depending on your count, it could either be equals to B or C or whatever, depending on how many times you're shifting by. So that's what we're just doing here with this encryption table. We're just aligning it so that we would know like which matches to which. I don't know if you understand. Okay. Now we now change the text that we're accessing from the user and translate it to the new ones from how we like assigned it in this table that we just um defined right now. So we're going to plain text as translate, and wherever it is that we're getting translation from, which is the encryption table. So what else? So let's just return it. I don't know if I've spoken on what return does, but return is kind of like the end point of your function. Remember, I, have I done this when I talk about global and local variables, where global variables are variables that can be accessed throughout the whole program. Those are the ones that are just called within the program. While a local variable is any variable like is defined within a function, so it cannot be accessed outside of that function. But if you want to be able to access outside the function, you return it. There are other ways to go about this, like maybe using the global keyword, but if you like you're done with everything, it's just one thing you want to get, which in this case we have like three variables that we have defined here, but it's just one thing we need. So that's the reason we're going to return. But once you use that return, it ends the function. So like that is the ending of the function. All right. So now we have plain text. You're seeing this thing is not turning blue because it's the plain text that we called there is um a local variable. Should we just do input? Let's just do input. Okay. And we need to get how many times we want to shift it by. So just say shift is going to be equals to int input. If you don't know why I'm using int, because I only want to receive integers, so you can do try and accept to handle any errors that will be caught here, but we're not trying to like make it complex. But I don't think I've actually even said didn't try and accepting this one here. So we're just going to say enter an integer. Okay, and now let's just, so now we're going to call the function. It is already doing it for me here. Encrypt plain text shift. Okay, and now we're going to print it out. So now we have changed it. We have like called the function on it. So you can assign the value you get from a function into a variable if you don't want to return it to the user yet, or if you wanted to save it and or store it for later use, which is what we're doing now. You mustn't do that. You can if you want. So now we're just going to print it. So let's save it and let's run and hope it works. And your program crashes. Okay. So enter your text here. I want to work with praise and want to shift it one time. So actually this is the same thing with what we did earlier. Okay. So let me just transfer this into the folder for the 100 days of Python so I can push it to GitHub. So if you need the source code, all the source codes are always um um they're always available on GitHub. So I'll leave the link to them below. So it's called Caesar Cipher .py. It's under the D8 folder, so let's just paste it. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give a like, share it to anybody you think that will be interested in watching it, and I'll hope to see you guys here next time. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.